I never thought rain could hurt this much. But that day, sitting outside my own sister's wedding, it felt like the sky knew my place in the family. Before I begin, let me say this. If you've ever been treated like you didn't matter, if you've ever been quietly pushed aside by the people who were supposed to protect you, then stay with me. And if stories about quiet strength and unexpected justice speak to your heart, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and settle in. Because this is not just a story about a wedding, it's a story about respect, silence, and the kind of revenge that doesn't raise its voice. My name is Ella. I'm the older sister. At least, that's what my birth certificate says. In my family, I've always felt more like a background character. The one who fills in gaps. The one who helps, listens, and stays quiet. I wasn't the loud one. I wasn't the favorite. I learned early that love in my house came with conditions, and I learned how to survive by not asking for too much. There were 4 of us at the dinner table, my mother, my father, my younger sister Lily, and me. Lily was sunshine. That's what my mother always said. She lights up a room, Mom would smile, brushing Lily's hair. She was born special. And I believed it, because whenever Lily laughed, everyone leaned closer. When I spoke, people nodded politely and went back to her. I wasn't ignored exactly. I was managed. Ella, you understand, right? That was my parents' favorite sentence. I understood everything. Too much, actually. Quiet roles I learned to play. I learned how to clean without being asked, how to give up my seat, how to say it's okay even when it wasn't. When Lily wanted something, the house moved. When I wanted something, I learned to wait. By the time we were adults, the pattern was already written. Lily was the star, I was the support. And somehow, that was supposed to feel normal. I met my husband Daniel when I was 30. He wasn't flashy. He didn't talk much about himself. He listened. That alone felt like a gift. Daniel worked long hours. He dressed simply. He never tried to impress my parents, and because of that, they decided something about him. He seems simple, my mother said once. Not cruel, just final. My father nodded. He'll get by. They never asked what Daniel did, never cared enough to look closer, and Daniel never corrected them. That was the kind of man he was, quiet, steady, observant, just like me. When I married Daniel, the wedding was small, a few tables, soft music, home-cooked food. My mother complained about the flowers. My father left early. It was nice, Lily said later. Her voice sounded kind but distant. Then Lily met Mark. Mark was loud, charming, always smiling. He talked about plans, big plans, restaurants, businesses, opportunities. My parents loved him instantly. He has ambition, my father said proudly. He's going places. I watched Mark closely, the way his smile disappeared when Lily wasn't looking, the way he interrupted her stories. But nobody wanted my opinion, and I had learned long ago not to offer it. When Lily announced her wedding, my mother cried, happy tears. This will be perfect, she said. We'll do it right. By right, she meant expensive, elegant, impressive. They booked a large outdoor venue, white chairs, a garden by the river. From the beginning, I knew my role. Ella, you're good at organizing, Mom said. Can you help with the seating chart? Of course I could. Ella, can you watch the vendors? Ella, can you handle the guest list? I did it all, quietly. No one asked how I was feeling. No one asked Daniel anything at all. A week before the wedding, my mother pulled me aside. You'll understand this, she said softly. There are appearances to think about. She looked at Daniel standing near the parking lot. We don't want Yon to feel uncomfortable. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. The sky was gray that morning, heavy, like it was holding something back. Daniel adjusted his tie in the mirror. You okay? He asked me. I smiled, the practiced one. It's Lily's day, I said. I'm fine. He looked at me for a moment longer than usual, like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. When we arrived, the garden looked beautiful. White fabric, soft music, flowers everywhere. Guests were guided to their seats. I walked with Daniel toward the front. That's when my mother stopped us. Ella, she said. Her voice was polite, too polite. She leaned in. Actually, we're a bit short on covered seating. I looked at the chairs. Most of them were under a large canopy. There are a few spots by the side, she continued, just in case it rains. I followed her gaze. Outside the canopy, near the edge, no cover. I felt something sink in my chest. Mom, I said quietly, "It might rain." She smiled, the same smile she used my whole life. "You'll understand, Ella." And that was it. No argument, no explanation, just a reminder of my place. Daniel squeezed my hand, not hard, just enough. "It's okay," I whispered, even though it wasn't. As the ceremony began, the first drops fell, light at first, almost gentle. I sat beside my husband outside the cover, while my family sat dry and smiling inside. I didn't know it yet, but that rain was only the beginning. The rain didn't stop. It didn't rush either. It just stayed steady and patient, like it had nowhere else to be. At first, people didn't seem to notice us. They were focused on Lily, on her dress, on the music floating through the air. Water tapped gently against my shoulders, then my arms, then my lap. I folded my hands together and tried to keep them still. I didn't want anyone to see me shake. Daniel shifted slightly beside me. He moved just enough so his shoulder blocked some of the rain from hitting mine. He didn't say a word. That was Daniel, always protecting quietly. I glanced toward my parents. My mother sat in the front row, dry under the canopy. Her hair was perfect, her makeup untouched. She didn't look at me. My father laughed at something Mark said, a deep, proud laugh. I wondered, not for the first time, what I had done wrong in my life to deserve being invisible to the people who made me. The rain grew heavier. Someone behind us whispered, "Should they be sitting there?" Another voice answered, "I guess that's where they were told." No one stood up, no one offered a seat. I felt heat rise to my face even as the rain made me cold. Not anger, something worse, shame. I kept my eyes on Lily. She looked beautiful, she always did. When she reached the part of her vows about family, my chest tightened. "I wouldn't be here without my parents," she said, her voice shaking. "They've always supported me." I swallowed hard. Daniel's hand found mine again, his thumb pressed gently into my palm. I focused on that pressure, that small reminder that I wasn't alone. The ceremony ended with applause. Everyone stood. Water slid down my sleeves as I stood too. My shoes squished slightly against the ground. My mother turned halfway and finally noticed me. "Oh," she said, "you got wet." Just that, no apology, no concern. "I hope you didn't catch a cold," she added, already turning away. I nodded, the old habit. Daniel didn't nod. He looked at her, not angry, just steady. "It's fine," he said calmly. My mother smiled politely and walked off. I knew that smile. It meant the conversation was over. We were guided toward the reception area, inside, warm, dry, but something had changed. People looked at us differently now. Not curious, not neutral, uncomfortable. Someone handed me a napkin. "Here," she said softly, "for your dress." I thanked her. Daniel took off his jacket and set it over my shoulders. It was still warm from his body. "Daniel, you'll get cold," I whispered. "I'm okay," he said. He always said that. At the table we were seated far from the main group, near the back, close to the service door. Mark stood to give a toast. He joked loudly, too loudly. He talked about success, about how far he and Lily would go together. My parents laughed, they clinked glasses. I watched Mark's hand on Lily's back. It pressed a little too firmly. I felt something twist inside me. Daniel noticed. "You don't like him," he said quietly. "I don't trust him," I replied. He nodded once. That was all. Dinner was served. The food was good, expensive. I barely tasted it. I could feel wet fabric against my skin. My dress clung to me in places I didn't like. Every now and then, someone would glance at us, then look away, as if discomfort were contagious. At one point, my mother walked past our table. "Ella," she said, stopping briefly, "you should have brought a shawl." I looked up at her. "I didn't know I'd be sitting in the rain," I said gently. She paused, just a moment. "Well," she replied, "these things happen." Then she walked away. Something inside me went quiet, not broken, just done. Daniel reached for my hand again. "You want to leave?" he asked. I looked around the room, at the lights, the laughter, my family, and I thought about how many times I had stayed when I wanted to go, how many times I had told myself to be patient. "No," I said softly. "Not yet." Daniel studied my face, then nodded. "Okay." The speeches continued. Mark's friends talked about money, about deals, about how lucky Lily was. One man joked, "She married up." Everyone laughed. I didn't, neither did Daniel. When it was time for the parents' speech, my father stood proudly. He talked about Lily's dreams, her future. He never once mentioned me, not even as her sister. I wasn't surprised. but it still hurt. Then something strange happened. Mark leaned over and whispered something to my father. I couldn't hear it. My father's smile faltered, just slightly. Mark laughed it off and raised his glass again. Daniel's posture changed. It was subtle, but I noticed. He sat a little straighter, his jaw tightened. "What is it?" I whispered. He shook his head. "Later." I trusted him. As the evening went on, the rain outside grew heavier again. It hit the windows now, loud, insistent. People danced. Music filled the room. Lily spun in her dress, happy, carefree. I wondered if she knew, if she had noticed where I had been seated, if she had said anything, or if she had chosen not to see. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Try not to look upset. People are watching." I stared at the screen, then I turned it off. Daniel saw my face. He didn't ask. He just placed his hand over mine again. That steady pressure, that quiet promise. I leaned closer to him and whispered, "I'm tired." He nodded. "I know." But still we stayed because part of me still hoped, still waited for someone to notice, for someone to say, "This isn't right." That moment never came. Instead, I heard Mark laugh again. Too loud, too sharp, and Daniel stood up, not suddenly, not dramatically. He just stood. "I'll be right back," he said. I watched him walk toward the exit, calm, focused. Something told me this night wasn't over, not even close. Daniel didn't rush. That was the first thing I noticed. He walked the same way he always did, measured, quiet. People barely paid attention to him as he passed their tables. To them, he was just Lily's sister's husband, the quiet one, the poor one. I stayed seated, my hands folded in my lap. My dress was still damp at the hem, cold clung to my skin, but I didn't move. I had learned long ago how to stay still when things felt uncomfortable. From my chair I could see Daniel stop near the edge. F the room. Mark followed him a moment later. They stood close, not friendly, not angry, just serious. Their voices were low, but the room had grown quieter between songs, enough for fragments to float toward me. "Not the place," Mark said with a laugh that sounded forced. Daniel's voice came next, calm, even. "It became the place when you did that." Mark scoffed. "You're overreacting." Daniel didn't raise his voice. He never did. "I'm not reacting," he said. "I'm responding." Something about that made my stomach tighten. Mark glanced around, checking who was watching. A few heads had turned. "This is my wedding," Mark hissed. "You don't get to." Daniel cut him off, still calm. "You embarrassed my wife." Mark smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "She's fine. She always is." That sentence landed heavy in my chest. I realized then that Mark knew. He knew exactly what had happened. And he didn't care. My mother appeared beside Mark, her face tense. "What's going on?" she asked. "Nothing," Mark said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding." Daniel turned to her. "You told Ella to sit outside," he said. My mother straightened. "We didn't tell her. We suggested. You put her in the rain," Daniel said, not loud, not accusing, just true. My father joined them then, irritation written across his face. "Is there a problem?" he asked. Daniel met his eyes. Yes, that alone felt shocking. Daniel never challenged anyone, not my parents, not anyone. "You disrespected my wife," Daniel continued. "You treated her like she didn't matter." My father frowned. "This is a wedding. Emotions are high." Daniel nodded slowly. "They always are when people show who they really are." Mark laughed again, too sharp. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You should be grateful you were invited at all." That was when the room shifted, not dramatically, just enough. A few guests had gone quiet, the music had stopped. Lily noticed. She walked toward them, concern on her face. "What's happening?" she asked. No one answered right away. I watched her eyes move from face to face, from Mark to my parents, to Daniel. Finally she looked at me, and for the first time that day, our eyes truly met. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just looked back. Something flickered across her face. Uncertainty. Maybe guilt. "What did you do?" she asked Mark quietly. Mark sighed, dramatic. "Nothing. Your sister is being sensitive." Daniel turned to Lily. "Did you know she was seated outside?" he asked. Lily hesitated. I knew there were limited seats," she said. "That's not what I asked," Daniel replied gently. Silence fell. Lily's eyes dropped. "I thought she wouldn't mind," she said softly. "She always understands." That sentence hurt more than the rain, because it was true, and because it should never have been. Daniel nodded once. "Thank you for being honest," he said. Then he turned away. He walked back toward me. My heart pounded as he approached. not fear, anticipation. He stopped in front of me and held out his hand. "Ella," he said softly, "come with me." I stood. The room felt suddenly very quiet. All eyes on us now. My mother stepped forward. "Daniel," she said tightly, "please don't make a scene." Daniel looked at her. "I'm not," he said. "I'm ending one." He guided me toward the exit. Mark's voice rose behind us. "You think you can just walk out?" Daniel paused. He turned around slowly. "I'm not walking out," he said. "I'm stepping aside." Mark laughed again. "Nobody even knows who you are." Daniel smiled, just a little. "They will," he said. Then we left. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The air smelled clean. I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking now, not from cold, from release. "Daniel," I whispered as we reached the car. "What did you mean?" He opened the door for me. "I told you," he said quietly. "Later." We drove away from the venue in silence. Not heavy silence, peaceful. After a few minutes, Daniel spoke. "Ella," he said, "there are things about me your family never asked." I looked at him. "And things Mark assumed." He paused. He shouldn't have. I didn't ask more. I didn't need to. For the first time in my life, I felt like someone was standing in front of me instead of beside me, and I knew, deep down, that whatever was coming next would be quiet, but it would be final. We didn't go home right away. Daniel drove past our street and kept going. The road was quiet. Wet pavement reflected the streetlights like small mirrors. I watched the rain slide across the windshield. My thoughts felt slow, heavy, but calm. After a few minutes I spoke. "Did I do something wrong?" I asked softly. Daniel didn't answer right away. He waited until he stopped at a red light. Then he looked at me. "No," he said. "You did everything you've been trained to do." That word stayed with me. "Trained to stay quiet," he continued. "To make things easier for others, to accept less so no one else feels uncomfortable." I swallowed. "I didn't want to ruin her day," I said. Daniel nodded. "I know." The light turned green. He kept driving. "What Mark said to my father," I asked after a while. "What was it?" Daniel's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "He was bragging," he said, "about a deal that hasn't closed, about money he doesn't actually have." I looked at him. "How do you know?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "Because the company he mentioned," he said, "is mine." The car felt very quiet suddenly. "You own it?" I asked. He nodded. "I founded it 12 years ago." My heart skipped. "But my parents thought that I was poor?" He finished gently. "Yes." I let out a small, breathless laugh. Not happy, not sad, just surprised. "They never asked," he continued, "and I never corrected them." "Why?" I whispered. He glanced at me. "Because I wanted to see who respected you when they thought you had nothing." Tears filled my eyes. "And now?" I asked. "Now," he said, "Mark crossed a line." We pulled into a quiet parking lot near the river. The rain had almost stopped. Daniel turned off the engine. "Ella," he said, turning toward me fully, "did you notice how Mark talks about money?" I nodded. "He lies," Daniel said, "and worse, he borrows against promises." My stomach tightened. "That deal he mentioned," Daniel continued, "was his last chance. It was contingent on my approval." I stared at him. "You're saying—" "I already declined," he said calmly. "I felt dizzy." "When?" "This morning," he replied, "when I learned how you were being treated." Tears spilled over before I could stop them. "Daniel," I said, my voice breaking, "you didn't have to do that for me." He reached for my hand. "I didn't do it out of anger," he said. "I did it out of respect." I wiped my cheeks. "What will happen to him?" I asked. Daniel was quiet for a moment. "He'll lose the deal," he said, "and the illusion he's been living in." He paused. "That's all. No threats, no celebration, just consequences." We sat there for a while listening to the river. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Lily. "Did you leave because of me?" I stared at the screen. Another message followed. "I didn't think it would hurt you." I closed my eyes. Daniel watched me carefully. "You don't have to answer," he said. I took a deep breath and typed slowly. "I left because I finally learned I don't have to stay where I'm not valued." I pressed send. A minute passed. Then another message appeared. "I'm sorry," Lily wrote. I didn't reply, not yet. When we finally went home, I took a long shower, let the last of the cold leave my bones. Wrapped in a towel, I stood in front of the mirror, for the first time in a long time. I didn't look small T. Oh, myself. Daniel was already in bed when I joined him. He pulled the blanket over us both. "Get some rest," he said. "What happens next?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow," he said, "people will start asking questions." And for once, I wasn't afraid of the answers. The next morning felt different, not loud, not dramatic, just clear. Sunlight slipped through the curtains like it had nothing to hide. I lay there for a moment, listening to Daniel breathe beside me. For years, mornings had started with weight, expectations, old habits. That day, they didn't. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't reach for it right away. I already knew what I'd see. Eventually, I picked it up. Missed calls. From my mother. From my father. A message from Lily. Mark is furious. Something about a deal falling apart. Did Daniel have something to do with this? I stared at the words. Daniel stirred. You don't have to deal with that today, he said quietly. I know, I replied, but I want to. I typed back slowly. I didn't ask Daniel to do anything, but yes, the deal was real, and it's gone. There was a long pause, then another message came. He says you embarrassed him on purpose. I almost laughed. Instead, I wrote, I sat in the rain and said nothing. That wasn't embarrassment, that was silence. I put the phone down. We had breakfast together. Nothing fancy, toast, coffee. Daniel moved around the kitchen like he always did, steady, unrushed. So, I said, breaking the quiet, are you worried? He looked at me. About what? My family, I said. About what they'll say now that they know. Daniel thought for a moment. I'm not worried, he said, but I am curious. I nodded, so was I. By noon the calls came again. I answered when my mother called the third time. Ella, she said immediately, what's going on? Her voice wasn't angry, it was shaken. You tell me, I replied gently. There was a pause. Mark says Daniel ruined his future, she said. He says it was intentional. I took a breath. Mom, I said. Did you know he was using a company he didn't own to impress people? Silence. I didn't think so, I continued. And did you know you put your own daughter in the rain? She sighed. We didn't mean it like that. I closed my eyes. That's the problem, I said softly. You never do. She didn't argue, that was new. Later that afternoon, Lily came over alone. No makeup, no smile. She looked smaller somehow. We sat on the couch, the space between us heavy. I didn't see it, she said finally, how bad it was. I nodded. I know. I thought you were strong, she continued, that you didn't need protecting. I met her eyes. I was strong, I said, but strength isn't meant to be tested by the people who love you. Tears filled her eyes. Mark is blaming everyone, she whispered. He says this ruined him. I tilted my head. Did it? I asked. She didn't answer, because deep down she knew. A week later I heard they were fighting constantly. Mark's charm was gone, the smiles too. Without the deal, without the image, there wasn't much left. My parents invited us to dinner. Daniel asked me what I wanted to do. I want to go, I said, not to fix anything, just to be seen. At the table, my father cleared his throat. Daniel, he said, I owe you an apology. Daniel nodded politely. You do, he said, but not for the reason you think. My father frowned. You judged me, Daniel continued calmly, and because of that you taught your daughter that she deserved less. My mother looked at me then, really looked. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I believed she meant it. But I also knew something had changed. I didn't need their approval anymore. As we left that night, my mother hugged me tighter than usual. Ella, she said, I hope you forgive us someday. I smiled gently. I already did, I said, but forgie. Danis doesn't mean forgetting. On the drive home, Daniel reached for my hand. You okay? He asked. Yes, I replied. And for the first time, I knew it was true. Some stories don't end with shouting. They end with understanding. Weeks passed. Life settled into a quieter rhythm. The wedding photos appeared online. Smiling faces, white dresses, perfect angles. In none of them. Did you see the rain? Mark stopped calling. Then he stopped being mentioned at all. Lily moved back in with my parents for a while. She said she needed time to think. I didn't ask her to explain. Some lessons have to sit in silence before they make sense. One afternoon she came to see me again. She looked calmer, tired but calmer. I keep replaying that day, she said softly. The rain, the seating, you. I listened. I thought love meant being supported, she continued, but I think it also means protecting. I nodded. She reached for my hand. I didn't protect you, she said, and I didn't protect myself either. I squeezed her fingers. We're both learning, I said. She smiled through tears. That night, Daniel and I sat on the porch as the sun went down. The air was warm, quiet. Do you regret it? I asked him. Regret what? He replied. Not saying who you were sooner, I said. Letting them think you were less. He leaned back in his chair. No, he said, because now they know who you are. I thought about that. All my life I had been measured by how much I could endure, how quietly I could accept, but that wasn't strength. Strength was choosing when to stand. I didn't ruin my sister's wedding. I didn't seek revenge with anger or noise. I simply stopped making myself small. And in doing that, the truth had spoken for itself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't need to prove your worth to people who benefit from ignoring it. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is peace. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of a moment when you were overlooked or underestimated, take a second and like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen quiet strength change everything? And if you want more real-life stories like this, stories about resilience, reflection, and silent justice, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening.